Hello guys, I believe creating a route domain video tutorial could help you guys understand better about route domains since I had difficulty understanding route domains before few years. So I start up with a few minutes of introduction about route domain and then I start configuring the route domain. So if you're not interested uh, listening to the intro about route domain, you can skip and go after 6 minutes. I will start configuring the route domain. Imagine that you are a service provider and you have multiple clients and you are providing Big IP as a service and you give some certain VLANs to certain clients and some set of VLANs to some other clients, and you do not have control over what are the IPs that they use. And you want Big IP to handle both the traffic. In that scenario, route domain would help you since route domain will isolate the traffic between set of VLANs. And another one of the main reason why you need route domain uh, is when for example if you are a very big company, very big corporate, and you have multiple departments and certain departments will, and it is geographically located in different places as well, and you have different sets of VLAN and you reuse the IP address. One of the advantages of using VLANs is to reuse IP address. And you, when it comes to Big IP is not, it is quite expensive. So if you want all this traffic, all the VLANs to handle by a single Big IP, and how would Big IP differentiate IP address for each individual VLANs? That is the reason why you need route domain. This manual chapter, I will put this link on my website. This manual chapter explains about route domain. So those are route domains or configuration object, as I mentioned before. If you have same or um, same IP address or same subnets, and you want Big IP to handle the traffic on different VLANs, you need route domain. And there you could actually go ahead and read this document. It's quite informative. And the images are not very clear, but you could make some idea out of it. And most of the service provider, what they do is they would create a user and associate a partition, and they would assign a partition a route domain. So there is an option to add route domain for a partition. I will show that at the end of this video. Just for instance, say this is a network diagram, even though it doesn't look like a network diagram. Just imagine that it is a network diagram. Okay, so here these different colors represent different departments, and this is a single Big IP which is handling all the traffic. And one thing that they have in common is the subnet that they have. It's 10.2.2.0, 10.2. I mean, everything has the same subnet, and however, they have different VLANs. So if you want Big IP to handle their traffic, for example, HR wants to use a Big IP. They want to deliver applications. They want to enhance the speed, or they want to distribute the load. HR wants to use the Big IP. They could use it. You could isolate the traffic completely for the HR, completely for the say this is a HR department, and say this is a sales, and you want to isolate the traffic, and you want them to use the Big IP, and you want to utilize the Big IP as much as you can. So you need to use route domain to isolate the traffic in the Big IP. When they use same subnets but different VLANs, you could do it. However, imagine the sales people wants to communicate to a web server which is located in HR department. Of course, they may need it for probably take a holiday or to check their pay rise. I mean, it could be any reason. So they want to get get access to the HR, this particular subnet or these VLANs where it has the same IP address. So if you want sales department to contact HR web server, what you would generally do is say it depends on your configuration of your network and how the web servers are configured. You would have a virtual server in sales listening on sales side, and you have pool members for that in the HR side. So in order to communicate from one route domain to another route domain, you need to have strict isolation disabled. So by default, strict isolation is enabled whenever you create a route domain. So if you want to communicate from one route domain to another route domain, you need to disable on both route domains. I will show that to you in the upcoming configuration how to do that. I will set up a similar lab and I will show that to you. I believe creating a lab would help us understand the route domain better. So this is my lab setup. I have a big IP and this is a Windows XP machine. So we'll change the pin color. That is a Windows XP machine and which is in IP address 10.2.2.1 and 24 subnet. And this, and I have a web server. This is a web server. And that is a Windows XP machine. So that will be our client, and this will be our web server. So, and this is on a VLAN 100, which everything in green here, it's in VLAN 100, and everything here in blue is VLAN 200. So I will show you where I have the big IP. So this is this BT backtrack, and I'm running Apache there. So these are the IP address. So to simulate multiple pool members, I created some virtual interfaces and put multiple IP addresses here. And my big IP SSH session is here. I believe it's still up now. Okay, so that is my big IP, and it is running version 11.4. So this is the SSH, and I will show you the web GUI. So I'm just logging into the web GUI. Yeah, this is the web GUI. So let me see. Yeah, it is running 11.4.1 hotfix 2. And I have the client machine, which connection has been already timed out. Let me try to connect it again. So you can see it's a Windows XP machine, and the IP address is 10.2.2.1. So this is the client machine, and client machine is here. Big IP SSH session is here. This is our web server, which is a backtrack and running Apache in it. And this is the web GUI again for the same big IP. So this is how it looks. So Windows XP, web server, and big IP. So now let's go ahead and configure the settings. So one of the main things that you need to notice is the IP address of the Windows XP is actually 10.2.2.1, and the web server IP address is 2.1. I have multiple IP addresses that I mentioned before and showed that to you. So they both are in the same subnet. So our goal is to communicate from Windows XP to this web server. I mean, it's not exactly a communication, but we are the big IP need to handle both the client-side traffic and the web server traffic separately. So we will see how we do it. Let me go to the web GUI and let me go to the VLANs. So the first thing that you need to have the VLANs in place, and I already created 3 VLANs here. So VLAN 100, VLAN 200, and VLAN 300. So as I mentioned in the diagram, the Windows XP, we will put it in VLAN 100, and the web server, we put it in 10.2.2.1. So, so this is VLAN 100 where we will have our XP machine, and this is where we will have our web server. So here is under network is where you see route domains configuration. So you might have seen it before, but didn't pay attention. So as soon as you click on route domain, you will see 0. By default, the system creates it. So all the VLANs, even if you haven't configured used route domain before, you will see route domain 0 in your unit by default, and all the VLANs and all the IP address that you used before configuring route domain would automatically come inside VLAN. All the VLANs will come inside route domain 0. So let's go ahead and create one route domain. Let's see how it looks like. So I'm going to mention this name, say, I'll just put client RD, name doesn't matter. And the ID is important. So a good practice is to start with 1, 2, 3, 4. You could actually go. Do not put weird numbers like 200, 300. I do not know what is the maximum number you could put there, but the best practice is start with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will just start with 1, and description I don't want to give any. And the VLAN, what I put here is 100, which is where our client machine, our XP, will be connected to. So I put this. So you see here, you actually see the available VLANs. So the available VLANs are the VLANs which are in route domain 0. And this dynamic routing protocol, we are not going to cover this today because since it's a very broad topic, if I'm going to explain about dynamic routing, so but do not worry about it. For basic setup, you don't need it. So I will leave that. I'll leave that as default. I won't configure anything there. And the bandwidth controller as well, I am not bothered to modify anything. I will just leave it as it is. And then let me click on finish. And let me create another one VLAN. So server route domain. And here I will give 2, route domain ID 2, and put VLAN 200 here. Okay, so we have 100, 200, and 300. So these are the VLANs that we can have. And remember, you cannot have actually more than a single VLAN. You cannot have in multiple route domains, but in a single route domain, you can have multiple VLANs. So it so a single VLAN can have only one route domain, but a route domain can have multiple VLANs. If I try to create um, another one route domain and put already an existing VLAN, it would actually move. Let me actually create one. Yeah, let's just RD, put 3 route domain ID 3, and I will put 200. Remember, we have this VLAN already associated to route domain 2. So if I actually assign it here, it should move from route domain 2 to route domain 3. Let me try it. See, it actually moved from route domain 2 to route domain 3. So as I mentioned before, a single VLAN can present in only one route domain. If I delete this one, it will go to the default route domain, that is route domain 0. Try to delete it. And then I could just go there and add it. Okay. After creating the route domain, now we need to create self IP address for the unit. So let me go to self IP address. Okay, so we need to create self IP address, one for the client side, another one for the web server. Let me put it in the diagram. So for big IP, we already created 2 route domains. So this one belongs to our route domain 1, and the web server belongs to this side traffic. It doesn't really belong there, but the traffic for the big IP, it belongs to route domain 1. Okay, so we need to create a self IP. I think it's better for me to put the route domain near the big IP because we don't associate it there. So okay, it's RD1, and let's put a self IP. I'll just put self IP 10 dot. Forgive my handwriting, please. 10 dot 2 dot 2 dot. Let's say 201. And so this side belongs to VLAN 200 belongs to route domain 2, and let's put a self IP. Should I written it there? Self IP. Just to make things interesting, let me put the self IP address, the same IP address, 201. If you remember, previously when I was explaining with the solution article and saying something about route domain, I mentioned we need to suffix it with percentage when we create the IP address. So I just put 1 here, and I will put, sorry about the messy the IP addresses, and it could be a bit confusing. Sorry about it. Okay, let's go and configure the self IP address. To create, and I'll put self. Yeah, I'll just put self VLAN VLAN 100. That's fine. IP address 10.2.2.201 and modular symbol or the percentage symbol and put 1 since this belongs to route domain 1, this VLAN. VLAN 100 belongs to route domain 1, so you put it. And the subnet mask, if you remember, it was 24, so I just put 24. And this is a self IP address. It's not a floating. And then now port lockdown settings, I will choose default since I was able to perform some ping and other tests. So I know the port is listening. So I'll just finish it. Okay, and I will do the same for the VLAN towards the web server side. Not VLAN. Okay, and interestingly, we will have the same IP address with a little change. Here we put %2. It belongs to route domain 2. And make sure that you choose VLAN 200. So you don't actually choose any route domain here. The only way the IP address knows this belongs to route domain, what route domain it belongs to, is by mentioning %2. And here you use allow default. I mean, it depends on your network, but I always recommend to use allow none or choose custom and include the ports that you like to open on that interface. And okay, so we got the IP address here. Having the self IP address configured to the unit, let's actually go ahead and check whether there's a connectivity between BigIP and Windows XP and BigIP and the web server. So let me go to the SSH session in BigIP. So this is a BigIP. Ping 10.2.2.201, not 201. 201 is a self IP address. And the Windows XP IP address is 1, and it belongs to route domain 1. So I need to put %1, and it will ping. Brilliant. And to ping to the web server, all I need to do is put ampersand and 2. Okay, and this is a customized ping for BigIP. That's why it understood ampersand 2. If you try to do it in your Linux machine, it may not understand. I think OpenBSD supports route domain to associate to an interface, not for VLANs. I just remembering seeing some video in YouTube. Yeah, I don't know whether they have a customized ping like F5, but F5 has this. But however, you will have issues testing applications such as if you want to say, for instance, if you want to curl, since it is a web server, this is a web server IP address, and if I try to curl it, I should get some information, but mostly I won't, because curl doesn't understand what is this %2. So in order for user land applications to use the route domain, there is a command called RDSH, route domain shell, and you mention the route domain ID and you go inside. Let me actually show you the solution article where it actually, there's a F5 solution article. Ooh, not new. Let me open a new tab. Ask F5. DSH. I will put the solution article. Yeah, here we go. This is the one. So user land application on BigIP can now connect a host in non-default route domains. And this only applies to version 11. In version 10, you need to convert the IPv4 IP address to IPv6. That you may actually, I think it is here. Yeah. The solution article will explain how in version 10, prior to version 11, how to use that. So what you do is you actually, there are two commands. One is rdsh and rdexecute. Um, rd rdexecute, if you already know what command you are going to use, you could use rd. I always use rdsh. That was very easy to me. Let me actually show you how it works. So you go to big IP. So and then in the bash prompt type rdsh and the route domain that you like to go inside. So for this instance, I like to go to the web server route domain, that is route domain 2, and I put route domain 2. And now let me try curl on 10.2.2.1 and see what happens. See, I get the result from the web page, so that is good. And even here, if I ping 10. I don't need to mention this IP address uh, with the suffix %2. I could just put 10.2.2.1. It would actually ping the web server because we are in route domain. But you need to remember which RDSH that you are in. So just to get out of RDSH, you just need to type RDSH 0 would actually bring you to the default route domain, that is route domain 0. So if I run the same ping command, 10.2.1, I will not go because in route domain 0, we don't have that IP address 10.2.2.1. So we only this IP address, which is our client IP address in route domain 1, and web server IP address in route domain 2. So let's go ahead and create a pool on the web server side, that is route domain 2. Let me get a pool, create, and I'll just name it as HTTP pool route domain 2. And I'll put a HTTP monitor since it is a HTTP web server. It's just an Apache running in backtrack. So I'll just try port 80 and just give a couple of pool members. Just one is enough for testing. Actually, you know what? This won't work because I need to give the route domain. So I need to put the route domain which this pool member belongs to. So %2. Same here. Let's go 2, add 3. Okay, and finish. See? Wow, it is green now. Okay, that's brilliant. So let's create a virtual server in VS in client side. So that is the Windows XP side. That is route domain 1. Let's put RD1. It's a standard virtual server. The virtual server IP address. So I'll just give 10.2.2. Let's give 100 and HTTP. I'll enable HTTP profile since it's the HTTP traffic. And I will use automap. Yes, I have to use automap because both sides, the IP address are the same. And then profile. I'll leave everything else remaining the same. And the default pool, I will choose HTTP pool. So, and again here I need to mention in the virtual server destination address which route domain this virtual server belongs to, port 80. So let me click on finish. Okay, it shows green. The virtual server shows green. and you think it should work, but it won't. I will show you why. So let me actually go ahead and we added a new IP address here. So I'll just go ahead and put the virtual server IP address here. So virtual server is 10.2.2.100 percentage 1. Okay, let's go ahead and test it. I don't have the Windows XP is already timed out. Ooh, it's slow. So let me put 10.2.2.100. It should fail. Yeah, web page is not available. The reason for it is, as I mentioned before at the very beginning of this video, when I mentioned about route domain and why do we need a route domain, I mentioned route domain. One reason is to isolate the traffic. And also I mentioned by default, the route domain is strict isolation enabled. And we saw that when we create the route domains as well. So in order to communicate between one route domain to another route domain, I need to disable strict isolation. So let me go to client route domain 1, and I uncheck strict isolation enabled. And let me go to route domain 2 and do the same. Okay, it's done, and this time the website should load. Let me see. Wow, it works. So it went to the second pool. It's all the virtual IP address. It's all in the same web server, but I have multiple IP address configured there. So yes, it works. So we were able to communicate from Windows XP to Big IP, that is a virtual server 100, and then it goes to the Big IP, and AutoMap changes the source IP address to this one, to 201, and it communicates to the web server here. So it is actually the source and the destination is the same. I mean, we wouldn't see it in the packet captures because here it's a different source and destination. Here it's a different source and destination. We are at the end of the lab. So if you remember, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we could assign a default route domain for a partition. Let's go ahead and see how we could do that. You need to go to System and Users. This is the same way how we create a partition, and click on partition. Let's see what. So by default, the system creates a common partition. So let me create another one partition. Let me say this is HR partition. Okay, and I will leave everything else as default and click on Finish. So as soon as I create, you may notice here in the right-hand side, I see partition default route domain 0. So how do I edit it? So you may think that I click here and I will have an option to edit it, but unfortunately I don't. So the way how we can edit is, you need to go under network, create a route domain, and assign it to it. So it's not very user friendly, and I will show you how. So go to route domain, create, the same as as you previously see. I'll just put HR route domain 3, and I'll put the available VLAN, that is 300, and I will leave the rest everything as it is, and click on finish. Okay, brilliant. So we have route domain 3 here, that is HR route domain. However, in the partition default, I don't see anything. So if you want to assign this route domain to the newly created partition, you need to go inside partition and then HR route domain and then choose make this route domain the partition default route domain, and then click on update. So this is how it is not very user friendly, and this is the way that I figured out. Maybe there are I'm sure there is a TMSH command, but through WebGUI, this is the only way that I know. If you find any other way, please let me know. So now if we actually see, let's check the route domains. So I'm in actually HR partition now, and you could see the default partition, it says yes. And if I go to common, it goes here. That's wonderful, isn't it? Let me choose all. Okay, all doesn't show that one, but yeah, anyway, at least for this partition it shows. And if I go here again to user and partition, there we should see the default partition as 3. Yes, we do see here. So now you can go ahead and go to the HR IT department, and you could create a new username, choose what role they are, administrator, say for instance, not administrator, operator, and you could actually choose what partition they are allowed to use. So you just give it to them, and I don't think it is operator. Maybe that is manager. I'm not very good at the user roles. I always been an administrator. I didn't bother to use any other roles, but yeah, you just choose, and the whole point is you could assign certain partitions. So what happens is the HR department F5 administrator logs into the unit, and by default he will be redirected to HR partition, and they will have a route domain, and they could use any IP address they could use, and that will not conflict with any other IP address in any other department, since it's in route domain and it is strict isolation enabled. Thank you. Thank you for watching the video. Um, I'm not very good at explaining things. I'm just trying. I'm a newbie, so I highly appreciate your comments and suggestions. Please put it in my website. I disabled the Google comments in YouTube since YouTube requests Google Plus account, and I do not have one, and I don't like to have one. So please put a comment in my website, and I will get back to you guys. If you have any questions or any follow-up questions, please feel free to ask me. I will get back to you. Thank you. Thanks for watching the video, and you all have a great day.